The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis. Part 18. Book 3, the 19th chapter, True Patience in Suffering. The Voice of Christ. What are you saying, my child? Think of my suffering and that of the saints, and cease complaining. You have not yet resisted to the shedding of blood. What you suffer is very little compared with the great things they suffered, who were so strongly tempted, so severely troubled, so tried and tormented in many ways. Well may you remember, therefore, the very painful woes of others, that you may bear your own little ones the more easily. And if they do not seem so small to you, examine if perhaps your impatience is not the cause of their apparent greatness, and whether they are great or small, try to bear them all patiently. The better you dispose yourself to suffer, the more wisely you act, and the greater is the reward promised you. Thus you will suffer more easily if your mind and habits are diligently trained to it. Do not say, "I cannot bear this from such a man, nor should I suffer things of this kind, for he has done me a great wrong. He has accused me of many things of which I never thought. However, from someone else I will gladly suffer as much as I think I should." Such a thought is foolish, for it does not consider the virtue of patience or the one who will reward it, but rather weighs the person and the offense committed. The man who will suffer only as much as seems good to him, who will accept suffering only from those from whom he is pleased to accept it, is not truly patient. For the truly patient man does not consider from whom the suffering comes, whether from a superior, an equal, an inferior, whether from a good and holy person or from a perverse and unworthy one. But no matter how great an adversity befalls him, no matter how often it comes or from whom it comes, he accepts it gratefully from the hand of God and counts it a great gain. For with God, nothing that is suffered for his sake, no matter how small, can pass without reward. Be prepared for the fight, then, if you wish to gain the victory. Without struggle you cannot obtain the crown of patience, and if you refuse to suffer, you are refusing the crown. But if you desire to be crowned, fight bravely and bear up patiently. Without labor there is no rest, and without fighting no victory. The Disciple. O Lord, let that which seems naturally impossible to me become possible through your grace. You know that I can suffer very little, and that I am quickly discouraged when any small adversity arises. Let the torment of tribulation suffered for your name be pleasant and desirable to me, since to suffer and be troubled for your sake is very beneficial for my soul. The 20th chapter, Confessing our weakness in the miseries of life. The Disciple. I will bring witness against myself to my injustice, and to you, O Lord, I will confess my weakness. Often it is a small thing that makes me downcast and sad. I propose to act bravely, but when even a small temptation comes, I find myself in great straits. Sometimes it is the merest trifle which gives rise to grievous temptations. When I think myself somewhat safe, and when I am not expecting it, I frequently find myself almost overcome by a slight wind. Look, therefore, Lord, at my lowliness and frailty, which you know so well. Have mercy on me, and snatch me out of the mire, that I may not be caught in it, and may not remain forever utterly despondent. That I am so prone to fall, and so weak in resisting my passions, oppresses me frequently, and confounds me in your sight. While I do not fully consent to them, still their assault is very troublesome and grievous to me, and it wearies me exceedingly thus to live in daily strife. Yet from the fact that abominable fancies rush in upon me much more easily than they leave, my weakness becomes clear to me. Oh, that you, most mighty God of Israel, zealous lover of faithful souls, would consider the labor and sorrow of your servant, and assist him in all his undertakings. Strengthen me with heavenly courage, lest the outer man, the miserable flesh, against which I shall be obliged to fight so long as I draw a breath in this wretched life, and which is not yet subjected to the Spirit, prevail and dominate me. Alas, what sort of life is this, from which troubles and miseries are never absent, where all things are full of snares and enemies? For when one trouble or temptation leaves, another comes. Indeed, even while the first conflict is still raging, many others begin unexpectedly. How is it possible to love a life that has such great bitterness, that is subject to so many calamities and miseries? Indeed, how can it even be called life when it begets so many deaths and plagues? And yet it is loved, and many seek their delight in it. Many persons often blame the world for being false and vain, yet do not readily give it up, because the desires of the flesh have such great power. Some things draw them to love the world, others make them despise it. The lust of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, and the pride of life lead to love, while the pains and miseries, which are the just consequences of those things, beget hatred and weariness of the world. Vicious pleasure overcomes the soul that is given to the world. She thinks that there are delights beneath these thorns, because she has never seen or tasted the sweetness of God or the internal delight of virtue. They, on the other hand, who entirely despise the world and seek to live for God under the rule of holy discipline, are not ignorant of the divine sweetness promised to those who truly renounce the world. They see clearly how gravely the world errs, and in how many ways it deceives. End of Part 18.